There are more opportunities in creating African brands that will one day rival international ones. One person who is exploiting this is the founder of Kisua. He saw the need to increase demand in African fashion, and now, trading in South Africa and other parts of the world, including Europe, the opportunities are endless. Take a look at his story.
So Kisua is a contemporary African fashion brand. I am from Ghana. I travel a lot across the African continent, lived in South Africa. And I found that whenever I traveled, whatever country I found myself in, I could always find, beautiful, locally made African fashion that I would often buy and gift to friends. And people were always interested in these fashion pieces that came from different parts of the continent, and would see things that I had bought and gifted to somebody and would come and offer me money. Say, hey, next time you're in Lagos or next time you're in Dakar, please bring me this dress or that top that I saw you bought for this person or that person. And that's kind of how I realized that there was obviously interest in contemporary African fashion that was well made and good quality, but people just didn't know where to get it. And that's how I started investigating and found that we really needed to build an entire supply chain and distribution network behind it in order to create that ability to deliver to a large number of customers. And the name Kisua is a very archaic form of Swahili that is no longer used, or coastal Swahili, and it means well-dressed person. So we thought it was an appropriate description for what we're trying to do with the brand. Making production in Africa is challenging and is not particularly easy. You have to source your materials and then have them transported to wherever on the continent it is you're doing your production. So, for example, we source in countries like Ghana, we source fabric, and then we manufacture in different parts of the African continent. And then from there we have to ship it to Europe or the US, more here in South Africa, where we also have a huge following. So bringing all of that together is, it still remains quite challenging. We often talk about trade between African countries and inter-African trade, but sometimes the reality is actually quite far away from what we aspire to be. We aspire to have this continent where trade is easy between countries, but there's still lots of barriers and it's still quite challenging, to buy things from one African country, have them manufactured in another African country and then sold in a different African country. But that's what we've been doing with this brand, and that's what we've been doing with the logistics behind it to make it all seamless and allow us to serve a global customer base. We also have distribution centers in the UK and the US. We deliver globally online, so you can go to kisua.com and we can deliver to you from one of our distribution centers in the US, the UK, or here in South Africa to anywhere in the world. You had to start somewhere, and we will do men eventually, but women was a good starting point. Women are constantly looking for fresh ways to express themselves. They're looking to appreciate contemporary African fashion, and so we felt it was there was quite a lot of demand for women's fashion, and that's why we started there. But we're also finding that there's quite a bit of demand for men's African fashion as well. We get lots of requests from men for a Kisua man's range. So at some point that will definitely happen. The fashion, there's lots of choice. Consumers have lots of choice, which is a good thing. What isn't the case though is that specifically when you talk about African fashion and contemporary African fashion, the market is actually not saturated. Africa has over 1 billion people, and we do not have one international fashion brand that comes from the African continent, not one. So therein itself lies, a huge opportunity for a brand like Kisua to not just serve our customers on the African continent, but also be the representative, the advocate of contemporary African style and African culture to the rest of the world. And we find, a lot of our clients are also international non-Africans who are looking for something interesting, something a little bit different that comes from the continent, but that is, well made and contemporary. It's not your grandmother's African fashion. There are many difficult aspects of starting a business from scratch. I guess it's always going to be harder than you think it's going to be. It's going to cost more than you think it's going to be. It's going to take longer than you think it's going to be. So that for me is the tough part. It's just knowing that however hard you thought it was going to be, it's actually going to be much harder. And you just have to be prepared for it. You have to stick it out if you really believe in the vision.